Hello once again. Thank you for tuning in, and if it's the first time here, my name is Chandra and I hope this message blesses you or somebody out there. And today's topic is what matters the most, the glory of God. And my father wants me to come here and talk about the glory of God, because this is the only thing that the enemy or Satan cannot duplicate or counterfeit. The glory of God, the most important thing, because the glory of God is the dignity of his person. So the word dignity here means worthiness, respect, and honor. And his person means the essential being of God, because God is a personal God, the Trinity, the three in one, the three person in one, our God. And this is the grace that distinguishes us as believers from the rest of the world. So one may ask, what is this glory of God that she's talking about? The glory of God is the brightness, the light, or the glow that you see in the children of God. And this glory is a threat to the enemy, and he's always trying to steal it from the children of God. You see people that are children of God, they always have this glow around them. And one might look at them and say like, oh, she's always happy, she always looks nice. It's like she hasn't got any problem. But everybody has problem. It's just that they have this hedge of protection around them. And that is the glory of God. So this glory of God is a threat to the kingdom of darkness. And the enemy always wants to steal it from the children of God. Your glory is what attracts your blessing. It's what attracts your blessings, and it's what attracts the favor upon your life. And this happens because you're walking upright and you're walking in holiness. So when you're walking upright and in holiness, what God will do, he'll bring this hedge of protection around you. That's why when people see you, they can see that glow up. They can see that attraction. They can see that light in you. And that's what attracts all the blessings, all the favors that you need in this world, because you walk upright and in holiness with God. The Bible tells us that in Job 1:9, that when the enemy was speaking to God, and God said, have you seen my servant Job? In Job 1:9, he said, you have made a hedge of protection around him and around his household and around all that he has on each and every side. You have blessed the work of his hand, and his possessions have increased in the land. This is why Satan could not access Job. He had the hedge of protection around him. And when you have this hedge of protection around you, it doesn't matter who does what. It doesn't matter who takes your picture, whether to the shrines, whether to the voodoo place, or whatever they do, it won't work. Because when you're walking upright and in holiness with Christ, and you are in his will, what he will do, he will put a hedge of protection around you. Every time there's problems, arrows fashioned against you, he will give you a way of escape. That's why the enemy always tries to pull you away from the will of God, so that he can destroy you, so that he can kill you. Because once you've pulled you away from the will of God, you lose this hedge of protection around you, which is the glory. And then the enemy will have dominion over you, and he will have power over you. But when you have this hedge of protection around you, the Bible tells us in Genesis that God said, let's make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So that's dominion that we have as children of God. And we have this dominion as long as we walk upright and in holiness. And God has given us that edge of protection around us. But when the enemy succeed to pull us away from this glory, from this edge of protection, the Bible tells us in Romans 3:23 that for all have sinned and has fallen short of his glory. So you can see how important the glory of God is. We all need this glory in our life. Everybody needs the glory of God. So now I'm going to talk about things that happens when this glory falls on a child of God. The first thing that it does, it affirms our heart and we become humble. And that transforms the way we worship. The Bible gave us an example of Prophet Isaiah. Even though he was in ministry for so many years, the minute he saw the glory of God, he saw the angels, he saw the seraphims saying, "Holy, holy is the Lord, full of glory." A prophet Isaiah was humbled and he began to pray. And once he began to pray, he saw his wretchedness. He saw that he was not a clean person, and which is in Isaiah 6:5. And he said, "Woe to me, I cried, I'm ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." So once that glory fell upon Prophet Isaiah, you could see his wretchedness. You could see that I'm a dirty person. I'm not as holy as I thought I am. There's so much work that needs to be done in me. And the same thing happened to children of God. Once the glory falls on them, they see that they can do better. They start living, being upright with him, living holiness, and try to stay in his will. Because they know that when they stay in his will, that's where all the blessings and the favor is from our Father Jesus Christ. And another thing that happens when the glory of God falls on us is that it leads to obedience. Prophet Isaiah is another example that after this glory fell upon him, he looked around and he heard the voice said, "Who will follow me?" And he said, "I will, I will. I will follow you wherever you go, God, I will follow you." And that should be the aim of our lives. When this glory falls on us, we can do the same thing also. Be obedient to his word and do his will as well. It should be our mission to be like Prophet Isaiah. Prophet Apostle Paul even put it in 1 Corinthians 10:3 that, "So whatever you do, whatever you drink, whatever you eat, whatever you do, it shall be for his glory." That was his other ways of explaining what we should do in his glory. How important, how valuable the glory of God is. And each and every one of us has to look at it from that point of view. And also there's so many ways that can manifest the glory of God. It can come as a presence of God. The Bible tells us in Exodus 13:14 that when Moses was saying, "God, I want to see you, I want to see your glory," and God refers to the glory of God as the presence of God. He said, "I will make my goodness pass before you." Imagine if God can say that to you. It will show that he's pleased with you. And it should be our aim to make God to be pleased with us. Imagine God telling you that I will show my glory pass right before you. How wonderful is that? His presence has to be valued, and his presence has to be valued above everything here on earth. And also the Bible tells us that King Solomon in Kings, that King Solomon was one of the men that was full of wisdom. And the Bible tells us that God's presence graced Solomon's temple. And also the Bible tells us in Luke 5:7 that the glory of God, that presence of God, sometimes it can come in healing. What happened in Luke 5:17. And when it comes as healing, everybody in the room will start getting healed, to start praising God. It can come as judgment. The Bible tells us that in Acts 2:47, what happened to Sapphira and Ananias? The presence of God came as judgment and they died instantly. It can come as worship, and when this presence comes at worship, everybody will feel like worshiping God. It can come as prayer and intercession. When the presence comes, which is in Luke 1:11, everybody will start praising God, or will start praying and interceding because that presence is there. And even the day of Pentecost, when the presence of God gazed that room, 3,000 people were saved on that day. It shows you what the presence of God can do. That's His glory. Wherever it comes, chains are broken, things change, curses are broken, lives are turned around, miracles happens. A mere man like David, who is a shepherd, can be turned to a king because of that glory, because of that presence and that hedge of protection upon a child of God's life. And I can tell you that there are some people out there who have seen it and hated it. And those who've hated it, I can tell you that their life never was the same. But as a child of God, when you see how God is, you will love it. That's a sign that God is working in you. And if we love the glory of God, we get to know the true God of the Bible, not what we hoped Him to be. Why wouldn't you want to worship the true God? Try to choose another God. When you have experienced His power, you've experienced His glory upon your life, because He's a greater God, more than any other God out there. Even Jesus tells us that if you believe, you will see His glory. And the Bible tells us in John 11:40 that Stephen saw the glory of God because he believed. He was a man full of wisdom. He believed in His glory and he trusted God even though he was stoned to death. And the Bible tells us that before he died, he saw the glory of God. He said, I can see the glory of God. So I'm here to tell you, brothers and sisters, what matters the most is the glory of God. That light, that brightness, that glow that you see in children of God, the hedge of protection, that's His glory. And in order for you to access it, you have to walk upright and in holiness and be in His will and do His will. And I can assure